Yeah, so I
heard you don't like these extra.
Yeah, he wasn't. And you know what? I told him as I got through it. I'm like, hey, man, be happy. You're okay. This would have been horrible for you.
Hi, I'm Megan. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So, yeah. I have a nice computer. Basically, a manual. And so.
Good. Yep. Ready when you are.
Ready?
All right, everybody. All right. So, we are ready to go ahead and get started here. I apologize for some of the technical delays that we were working on tonight, but we got them sorted out, and hopefully we got a great presentation lined up ahead of you. My name is Christian Belko, and yes, I am Salesforce certified. If you're tired of getting asked that so many times like I am, you just make the t-shirt. Makes it a lot easier going forward from there. Over here I have Kirk Stefke. He's going to present with me tonight, as well as Kathy Chilko. And we are part of the Clicks to Code series for Phillyforce. Tonight we're going to talk about Process Builder. How many people here already know what Process Builder is? Nice. That will make it a much easier presentation as opposed to those who don't. If you don't, that's okay. We're going to talk about some of the basics with it and everything. This is a continuation, so this is our first build off of in the Clicks to Code series. Was anybody at our All Things Automation presentation back in July? A couple people who presented, so that's good. So there's new people. So all those people went to that one and thought they knew everything about automation. Now they're going to be totally blown away because this is a whole new kind of game changer with automation going forward. Before we kind of get started with the presentation, just a couple of things we want to run through. First of all, if you're not already on the Meetup site, or if you're looking for other people to network with and be down and nerdy with, as I call it, meetup.phillyforce.com. That's where you can join up on the site. It's free. It doesn't cost nothing. And you can come on here. You can learn about all different types of events going on, get-togethers, learn about things like the materials exchange, which is also going on over here. So if you're looking for some new materials that you want to use going forward, feel free to swap it out. You can always bring some too. So if you have old stuff you're looking to get rid of, bring them to one of our meetups. We'll be happy to go forward from here. I believe we have over 600 members on the site now, Kirk, right?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely grown a lot from when I was on there. When I first started with the group, I thought like 300 people was a lot, and we've doubled that in about a year and about 2 years now.
Yeah,
so
really quick. So, at work, tell your friends, tell your colleagues, join up with the meeting, and all the content we have will get posted up there. But the more members, the better. So.
Bring them out, have some dinner, get some cookies like I got, all kinds of good stuff going on from there. We're going to have a conversation tonight on the Meetup site after about the event going forward as well. So if you want to ask questions, if we went too fast or too slow, if you have some ideas on how we can make our presentations better in the future, definitely let us know on the Meetup site, post some different details, rate it. No 1 stars, please. This isn't Yelp. Nobody's going to eat here or anything like that. So 4 or 5 stars are definitely welcome going forward from there. We also have the discussion group, so if you are a member of the site, you can post some of your different things in here between the discussion forum and the admin forum. For those of you who are here tonight who might be recruiting Salesforce people, we have a private job section that all of our Salesforce members happen to look at. So if you wanted to post one of your open positions on here, you could have 600 targeted people without having to go through LinkedIn or Dice or any of those other things. Right in the area who might be looking and can respond to you directly about that. So if you're already signed up as a member, just log in with your member credentials. You can check that out as well. We'd like to thank Liquid Hub here tonight. So bring them up with a couple different words that you guys have. And thank you very much for getting the technical stuff.
Yeah, no
appreciate it.
I'm no Steve J. Thanks everyone for coming. It's always a pleasure to host this event. We know how exciting Salesforce is right now. It's obviously emerging more than just a CRM these days, right? You got Force.com platform, enterprise applications, integrations, all that fun stuff. So it's a pleasure to have all the area leaders in Salesforce come out here. There's a couple of administrative things. Please make sure you sign this My IT and security folks will yell at me if they don't see everyone's name on there. Food's in the kitchen. If you haven't gotten in there, help yourself. Put it in the refrigerator. If you didn't see where it was when you first came in, it's over to the left. All right, I'll be popping my head in and out just in case you guys need anything, but that's it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And again, Liquid Hub generously provides a lot of the different food and drinks here. So if you have any questions on Liquid Hub or what they do, I'm sure they'd be happy to kind of stick around after and let you know going forward.
I won't make it a murder.
All right, so let's meet the team here tonight. First of all, I'll turn it over to Kathy and Celia before I go from there. But Kathy is with Tunnel Consulting, excuse me. Do you want to tell them a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm the lone Salesforce administrator for Tunnel Consulting, which we were just talking about. It's a unique role where you kind of get to control the whole thing. So we have about 40 users, and things are really starting to cook there, like really heating up. And I'm super excited.
One of the other presenters of the Clicks to Code series in our group is Celia Astheimer. Celia is not promoting anything tonight because she just got back from Cancun. So she got out of this one. But Celia, if you want to. Absolutely.
You still have one coming up for this one.
I actually am promoting one thing. I do work for Click. I'm the Salesforce administrator there. I work in our internal IT department. And we are about to be hiring one developer, someone hopefully with some C# experience, but Apex is also extremely helpful. And we're also hiring an admin type technical lead person. So if you have Salesforce admin experience, but also some other technical background, you might be a fit for that job as well. So if you are interested in an opportunity, it's a fantastic company to work for. They send places like Cancun every year. Please see me afterwards.
So as Celia said, if you're looking for an admin-y, technically type position, talk to her. She'll be able to help you out.
There will be actual job specs.
One of the things we wanted to do for Clicks to Code in 2015 is we would like to promote different types of opportunities that are out there, like Celia had kind of mentioned. So if you're in the room and you're looking for a position, or maybe you're considering a career change going forward, is there anybody here tonight who'd like to kind of present on some different openings they may have? Go ahead, stand up and introduce yourself. Tell us all about it.
Cool. So thank you for having us. We both work for Apex Systems. We are a technical recruiting firm. I'm the account manager. My name is Meg Corcoran. Monica is one of our lead recruiters. Monica, well, she has cards as well as I. So we actually have some pretty neat openings right now, all Salesforce related, for a financial firm in Delaware. We're looking for architects, developers, and administrators. We have plenty of information to share if there's something you are interested in. So just feel free to introduce yourself. We'll be here the rest of the night. So thanks.
Absolutely. Anybody else with any? Yes, sir.
Hi, Kevin Sprouse. I work for King Partners in Lansdale. Having a couple different clients that we're working with that are getting into Salesforce stuff right now. And we're looking to bring on some more clients. You know, as personally, I've been taking a lot of ownership of seeking out Salesforce people, and I love the idea of it. That's why I'm here today. So if anyone wants to chat, get more details, I'll be hanging out after the presentation today.
Sure.
So, second.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I talked to some of you already in the room. So I'm with Internet Creations. We're based in that the redheaded stepchild of New Jersey, but we're still cool. Been around for 10 years. Salesforce partner, both on the app side and the services side, working with Fortune 100s and nonprofits across 6 continents. The last 10 years, really successful track record. Looking to hire 2 admins. Great consulting opportunity. You'll work with a lot of different verticals, a lot of different customers. You won't travel. Maybe 5% of the year you'll travel. Doing something really fun. But we do all of our work here in Jersey. Got a great Salesforce development team. In-house, we don't offshore anything, but we're looking for really strong admins with great BA skills. If you have great BA skills and really light on admin, we'll make you a great Salesforce admin. BA skills are hard. If you want to talk, love to tell you more.
Absolutely. Anybody else with any different types of things? So for those of you who maybe have some friends that are looking or know other Salesforce people coming out, maybe some people who just got their certified administrator certification. There might be some great opportunities that they can look into here. So tell your friends, and again, recruiters, thank you very much for coming out. We encourage you to post on the board in the jobs forum, so that way more people who aren't here tonight can learn about those opportunities.
In the jobs forum, just want to repeat, post it there. I'll be the mean guy that deletes your post if it's elsewhere. So sorry about that in advance. There's a place for it.
So other than the stickler for details across the room tonight, let's go ahead and get started with the Clicks to Code series on the Process Builder. So here's tonight's agenda. First of all, we're going to cover 4 things. So it should be pretty manageable in the time frame, get everybody out of here on time. I don't know if we have a Black Powder Tavern get-together planned. Not tonight, but if you want to go out in the future, Black Powder Tavern's the place to go. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover, first of all, what is the Process Builder? For those of you who haven't been introduced to it yet, we're going to give you a little bit of background on that. We're going to build and test a simple process. So you'll actually see in real time here tonight. If you didn't bring your laptop, don't freak out. We're not expecting everybody to build their own, but it is something we're going to do kind of live for you so you can see that. We're going to review one of our previous Apex triggers, and we're going to see kind of how that trigger can relate into the Process Builder. And then finally, we're going to take it from a trigger to the process and kind of show how you can actually potentially use a trigger to go into the process. To be honest, Kirk's going to talk a lot more about that. I'm not as in-depth on the trigger part, but as we walk through, Kathy and Kirk will come on for their parts and let us know going from there. So what do you say? Want to all get started?
Yes.
Nice. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that then. So the first question, what is the Process Builder? Anybody here in the room at Dreamforce this past year? Okay, so you saw all the different information there about some of the Lightning components and some of the things that were available. And one of those things were the Lightning Process Builder. So a short definition, if we're talking about going back to school and looking at definitions, Process Builder is going to be a new workflow tool that will be able to help you automate business processes within a user-friendly visual representation of your process as you build it. That's a really technical name. What does that mean? So what it means basically is you can do a lot of things with point-and-click efficiency. What can you do? Well, it's going to allow you to add a whole bunch of processes in one place instead of multiple workflow rules. Does anybody here have, no workflow rules in their org and nothing going on? Absolutely, right? Everybody has a bunch of workflow rules. And if you're in my org, we label our workflow rules by object. So on our account object, we probably have 90 workflow rules or different things going on from there. This, you can kind of combine all those workflows into one simple process. So that way you don't need to keep track of all your workflows. If something isn't working, you don't need to look through those 90 different steps. You can kind of go through and take a look going from there. You can also modify your changes in a convenient visual layout with point-and-click efficiency. I like to say it looks a lot like Microsoft Visio, for anybody in here who's used Visio before. And you'll see that when we actually get into kind of the layout to be able to see going forward. Not to offend any developers in the room, but for any developers, you can stop using Apex code with the Process Builder, and you can automate simple tasks. We're going to show you how to do some of that here later tonight. So some developers may not be a big fan of this tool, but they'll just find other ways to make money, and that's okay. We can work on it from there. So it's a little bit about the Process Builder. There's my nice slow transition here. So what can you do with the Process Builder? There's a bunch of different things you can do. First of all, you can create a record. That's huge, right? Just being able to create a record from one step is something that you can do inside of the Process Builder. We'll actually show that as part of the demonstration tonight. You can also update records. So if you have things that are existing, you need to update fields on that record. You can do that, no problem. You can launch a flow from inside of a process. Definitely something that I know early on in the beta was a little wonky, but they seem to have worked out some of the bugs here as it gets ready to be released. Oh, important plot point for anybody who's used to Cliff's Notes from the past. Process Builder right now is not available in your production org. It's going to come in spring of 15. So depending on your org and the server you're on, sometime in early February. It should be available, though, in your sandbox. I believe we've passed all the logistics to get it in your sandbox. So if you haven't had a chance to poke around inside of your sandbox yet, it's right under the section with workflow and approval. You should see processes in there, highlighted by the little red new icon that they have. Yes, sir. Your question?
2 points about that.
Yes.
Not all the sandboxes are in Spring 15 yet.
Okay.
If you have a sandbox that's still pre-Spring 15 and you want to use a beta version of the Process Builder, just open a support case and Salesforce will let you go through it. Same in production. If you wish to use it in production as a beta version, just open a case and Salesforce will let you through it. But the new version, way better.
Oh, yeah.
Way better.
Oh, yeah. And I can skip the next slide now because that was my next two things I was going to go over. But no, that's okay. We're good to go. So you can also, what else can you do in Process Builder? Well, you can send an email. So if you are sending an email as a part of your process, you can link that in there. You can also link your approval processes in there. So how many of you have a workflow and that workflow triggers an approval? Now you build it all in one step. You can kind of look at everything going forward from there. You can post to chatter, which is something we're going to go over in the demo. How you can actually post to either a person or post to a chatter group if different things are going from there. And you can launch Apex, which Kurt and Kathy will get a little bit more into as we get into the presentation going from there. So for those of you who haven't seen the Process Builder, let's take a quick look at the layout. And again, this is a smaller look, so for those of you in the back, I apologize. For the kids who got here early, this looks a lot clearer up here in the front. But what you're seeing on here is a couple different sections. Up here you have your button bar with all your different buttons where you can see some of the different processes, edit the properties, activate it as needed. On this section here, the whole blue area, this is basically your canvas where you'll build this out. You'll see this as we're kind of going through and building the process here tonight. You'll see the records that the process will evaluate. So here I also could refer to this as the object. So here we're looking at where the case is the main object that all this stuff would be working off of going forward. Next, you'll see your criteria nodes. And again, for those of you who use Visio, excuse me, in the past, you'll see kind of the Visio theme, how it all lays out as you're walking through from here. After those, you'll see the actions. You can set up either immediate or scheduled actions. So obviously things you want to have happen right when everything is executed versus those things that you want to kind of have scheduled out going forward from here. So again, just a basic example of what you'll see in the layout as we're going through the process tonight. If anybody has any questions as I'm walking through building it out, please stop me. We'll do some group share and go from there. But if you have any, if there's no questions, then I think we can go ahead and get started to build out a simple process together. So before I go into switching the screens and probably breaking the computer, is there anybody who has a question for me about Process Builder, entry-level steps, basic stuff? Yes, ma'am.
When you say it can launch a flow, are you referring to a workflow?
No, but that's a good point. Workflow and Process Builder kind of tie stuff together. So you can actually build a workflow inside of that. A flow would be an actual flow that you build out if you have a flow inside of your system. So Celia is very, Celia, do you want to explain to me what the difference between a workflow and a flow is? I know you just got back.
Visual workflow is, I would almost call it a predecessor to Process Builder. It's a way to build out maybe like a wizard type thing where you can take the user through different screens or different steps in a process. Like you can create records and you can use that kind of build out the process. It's a little less user friendly than the Process Builder, but it's another way.
The process builder, like on the stupid place of it?
No, no. They're
I tried to make a flow the other day and it was awful.
Yeah, it's not intuitive to learn, but if you can pick it up, it's pretty powerful.
The foundation is the same, pretty much. They kind of advanced it. So you use flow when you want like multi-step visits, like you have a shopping cart, multi-step process. You want to have some screens that read some field and do some actions like multi-step wizard. You use a flow. A Process Builder is like an advanced version of the workflow. That's what we think of.
And you can do some more advanced things too. Pivot flows, so there's no user interface. There are no screens, there's no wizard, it just does
Good
action.
use of last pass.
But the nice thing is you can do some cool stuff in it where you can have it update multiple records. So you can have it kicked off on the process. So upon inserting a record, run this flow. And the flow does a bunch of stuff like inserts records, updates records, with a whole bunch of other things in the background. So it's kind of this thing of doing what you might normally have to do with Apex, but now you do point click using flow. You'll look at and how many customers you want.
And that's what I look at flow as. Flow is more point and click than an admin can do. It's a little more advanced than just a standard admin. Instead of having a developer go in and do Phillyforce screens and all kinds of things. You can do a lot of cool things in Flow.
I've heard that flow is a lot closer to the thought process that goes into flow is a lot more the developer mindset.
Yes.
And so that might be why some of us find it so much more complicated. I don't know, but that's what I thought. It felt a lot more like the logic was different.
And if it's something you're trying to learn, the button click admin, now since they've rebranded to Salesforce, I don't know how many of the archived posts you can get to, but there was a good series, I think it was either 2 or 3-part series of blog posts on button click admin of building a flow, and they kind of walked you through like building a sample flow, and that's part of what helped me learn how it works.
In addition, the newer workbook on it is much more helpful than the old one.
You could also connect with people like Celia, who have built ridiculously crazy flows that she kind of talked about at Dreamforce that could definitely provide you with some guidance as well. So definitely feel free to reach out to some of the different contacts here in the group. So we're going to take a look now at the process builder again. For those of you who do have it enabled in your org, you can find it under Create, Workflows and Approvals, and then Processes with your little red new button there. So when we open up the process builder for the first time, what we're going to see in here is we're going to see some of the different processes that we built out for the demonstration tonight. On here, you'll see the ability to edit or delete within the different actions. You can see the name of the process, although this is a little minimized right now. You can see a description of what it should do, last modified date, and then the status, whether or not it's obsolete, it's a draft, or it's an active process. And we have some different active processes here that we're going to show tonight. Let's look, though, at the draft of kind of the opportunity process. So we'll go ahead and we'll click on Edit here to do that. And this is a draft of an opportunity notification that we've set up going forward. So again, our object or our starting point is going to be opportunity here. And then we have our 2 different nodes. We have our first stage notification node, where if the first stage notification node equals true, there's going to be 2 actions that kind of pop out. There's going to be a new opportunity is available email alert that kind of goes out from there. And then there's also going to be a chatter update on the record. And we'll walk through and kind of see how this looks in a second. If the first stage notification equals false, we'll see the closed one notification. And there's 2 other actions that can happen based on that. If we look at the criteria node for this first stage notification, you'll see that when you build out the node, you can look at how do you want to execute this kind of going forward from here. So do you want to execute it based on if the filter conditions are met? So if you're using declarative point and click stuff, does that mean those filter conditions are met based off the filters you set up? Do you want to look at it if you're building out a formula, if the formula evaluates to true? Or my favorite, I don't care how it happens, no criteria, just execute. Just do it, man. See what happens. Go from there. Great way to mess up your system, by the way. But, you can also look at your filter logic and you can say it needs to either meet all criteria or meet one of the criteria. So, you know, for those of you who has a sales team who say, well, I want it to do this on this, but not on this, but definitely on that as well, you can kind of accommodate those different kind of business requirements here. What we're going to show you tonight is just kind of a very basic way in how that all works and be able to kind of put that together going forward. So backed out here, and we're going to go through kind of how we would build out a new process and some of the different features for it. And then after that, we're going to try, fingers crossed, to see that everything worked and is good to go. So that way that process can kind of work together. So we set up a new process easily by clicking on a new process, and we can kind of define those process properties, how we want to do it going forward from there. So we're going to look at our process based off of opportunities again. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to call this Opportunity Chatterblast. And it already creates your API name, so you don't need to do any work there. Obviously, if you need some background on API, you can hover over the bubble and look. You don't have to give it a description. I like to, because I like to remember what I did in my crazy Red Bull and dead mouse coding sessions or building sessions late at night here. So I'll give it a quick description. Built out to add a chatter post when an opportunity reaches a specific stage. Pretty standard, right? Straightforward. So we'll go ahead and we'll click on save. We'll try to click on save. Sometimes it takes a little bit. Oh, there's an error. Opportunity chatter blast for flow version is not unique. I guess because I put the exclamation point in there. So let's take that out and see if that makes any difference. I didn't think I would get hung up on this part of the actual process builder.
On the API.
On the API 2. Ta-da! Well, that hopefully will be the hardest part of the evening going on from here. So, okay, so we have it, and as you can notice, it already built out kind of our steps that we can use in this process here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to add our object. The thing that I really like is Salesforce put in kind of the predictive analysis, so you can start typing in something, and it'll narrow it down. It's not like you have to pick through a big list or anything. So we're going to go ahead and take opportunity. You can select whether you want this process to happen when the record is obviously created or created and edited. Where does that look familiar from? You didn't know there's going to be Q&A in this. Workflow, right, exactly. So again, you have that same ability to do that with the process builder as well. So we're going to say created and edited for this one, just to kind of give it an idea. And boom, there we go. The first step in our process is already set up. So next thing we're going to set up is we're going to set up our node. And we're going to set up our node to kind of have some different criteria, so that way we can see whether or not that criteria will evaluate the true or false. Everybody with me so far? Recruiters with me so far? Nice, okay, good stuff. So let's look at the criteria name. We want to say chatter blast at second stage. Pretty simple. It'll make more sense in a second here. So what we're going to do, we can look at again whether or not the filter conditions are met, whether they evaluate to be true, or no excuses, just execute the actions. We're obviously going to leave it at filter conditions are met. And the filter logic, we want it to meet all the criteria. So now down here, this is where we can put in some of our different criteria to make sure that that's good to go. So we're looking at the opportunity, right? And you can actually scroll down in here to get a better picture with the other sidebar. So keep in mind, there's two sidebars when you're using the process builder. One to kind of choose what you want to look at, and then one to grab the field that you want to use. So we're going to use stage here. And we're going to insert stage. Yes, that's the one we want to use. Now, check out this little slick feature. I figured this out completely by accident, by the way. I wasn't watching the process builder demo or anything. But we have it set to where the field is opportunity stage, and we have it equals. You can either select a value this way. So if you wanted to select, or if you wanted to put in whatever stage you're looking at. So we have our different stages with the pencil icon, right? This is just referencing back to your pick list, right? Shake some heads, let me know. Okay, good. All right, so this is referencing back to the pick list, or you can have this value reference a completely different field inside of Salesforce. So if you wanted to have the stage field equal whatever the value of any of these fields are down below here, you could totally do that. I see some of the mad scientist people in the room going like this, so that's good. For this example, though, to keep it basic, we're just going to look back to the pick list. And we're going to say that when this equals closed one, or excuse me, when this equals negotiation, we want that part of the criteria to be in there. And we're going to just add another piece of criteria as well. So all I did there was just add another row button, come back in, and we're going to take a look at another field here. What other field do we want to use? Email. I don't think we have email in the field here. That was a good guess, though. Let's use amount, because amount would be good here. So we want to say amount does not equal blank, because there is no way you should be close to closing an opportunity if you don't have the price for what your deal is in there. Because none of you have salespeople who do that at all in your org, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so we have our filter criteria built out now. So, okay, we're good to go. We can say, do you want to execute the actions only if the record was created or edited to meet the criteria? And if you need the little help bubble, you can scroll over that. It gave me some vertigo when I was trying to do that, so I just try not to. I'm going to leave that blank, but if I wanted to, I could click yes and go from there. So I'm going to save that, and there you go. So now here's our first node, all built out with our different stages that we're looking at, and a chatter blast. We said this was its second stage. We should probably say second to last stage, just so it's labeled correctly and good to go for everybody in there. So now we can decide, okay, what actions do we want to take if this is going forward? So if it meets that criteria that we kind of talked about, right? Okay, so here we go. Here's where we can add an action, and I just clicked on that. And again, when I select add an action, here you go. You can create your record, create your email alerts, launch a flow, post a chatter, all that stuff I talked about way back on the third slide. That was when we were all friends and nobody was mad at me, right? So here we go. We're going to create an action type here. We're going to post a chatter. And when we post a chatter, we want to give our action a name. So we're going to say the action is the chill code notification, because we want to let Kathy know if somebody's trying to get by being slick here in the system, right? So we can post to one of three things when we're posting in chatter. You can post to the record, right? Because every record has a chatter feed. You can post to a specific group, which is great if you have private groups that people don't want to know stuff going on. They can get their own stuff and nobody else has to know about it. Or you can just select a user, which is what we're going to do in this example. So for the user, we can choose to either select a user from a record or just search for a user. In this example, we're going to go ahead and search for a user. So the user we're going to search for is Kathy. So we're going to go ahead and start typing in Kathy's name here. And there you go. Kathy is indicated by the little blue smiley face. Tom, you have a question?
No, you're in the wrong field. Field above.
The field above. My bad. Thank you, Tom. Can always count on Tom to point out what I'm doing wrong. So thank you. So there you go. So now that I'm in the right field, thank you, Tom, I can then choose what I want to put in the message. And in the message field here, this is where you can also mention a user if you wanted to maybe mention somebody else going forward from here. So I'm going to send this. Kathy will see this in her chatter feed, but I'm also going to mention Celia in this because we want Celia and Kathy both to know somebody in our org didn't run their TPS reports, and now they're trying to push their opportunity through with no issue. So I'm going to put Celia's name in here, right? When I do that, there's Celia's blue happy smiley face. You can also add a topic if you want to do that. And I'm going to say shenanigans is our topic. And that won't come up, but we can go ahead and insert the field. If we wanted to insert a field, we could do that. And we're going to say, Celia, this opportunity is trying to get by with no amount. Do something. And you always put your little accent mark after the end. So you're good to go. Click on save. And there we go. So now we have one action that we're set up for as far as for an immediate action. Now we could choose to stop here if we want to, or we could add another action. For this case, and since we're on kind of a limited time frame, just going to create one action so you can kind of see how this works going forward. Yes, sir.
If you wanted to send it to more than one person, you have to repeat that, or can you put multiple to in that email?
That's a good question. Kirk, I'm going to take a glass of water. Do you want to answer that question?
While you're swallowing my glass of water, filibuster and talk until you're done. No, I think you would actually have to either mention them, like we did with Celia there, or add additional actions. Yeah, if it's anything like what we saw Kathy when we're creating users.
It's interesting when you just start, you figure out stuff like that. Would you have to? And then you think, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if there was this? And I think we're going to start seeing that. So I'm curious to see what Spring 15 holds and following.
Tom, was that a question or a scratch?
Well, just a comment on, so I mean, a chatter post can fundamentally only have one parent, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, right, so to me, it makes sense that a chatter post is only going to be, you're only going to be able to post to one thing. And if you want to create separate chatter posts, those are going to be separate actions. But you've got the ability to add whatever at mentions you want, which to my mind achieves the same functionality in a better way.
And the second one Thomas said, so far the actions that I've seen all operate on kind of the single record level. So you do have a lot of duplication so far. It seems that on the development side, it could technically cause a lot of issues. So I would expect to see some revisions coming down the line if everything's operating at a single level, a single record level.
So yeah, like Tom was saying, if you wanted to put multiple at mentions, I had Celia in there. If I wanted to add Kirk as well, I could put him, and then he would be after the text that we kind of typed out going forward from there. All right, so
I also had a question about the decision box, the first thing.
Okay, let me go back to the decision box. Okay, cancel out of this, back into this. Okay.
somewhere there was a, yeah, the last question, do you want to execute the actions only records created or edited to meet criteria?
Mhm.
If you say no there, then what does it do? It does every time. When does it execute?
It executes based off of your actions up at the top. So what we chose was when the filter conditions were met.
That's what the question says.
If it's edited afterwards. And
Oh, it'll
needs
send
to-
it again. Oh.
Yeah.
So if you think of when you set up a workflow, that's a choice when you're creating a workflow rule, right? You can choose when it's created or edited, or when it's created or edited to meet the criteria. It's that option, but it's just in a different way in this UI.
I have a question. On,
Yes.
And I know in the beta version, you can't do and/or nested statements. Do you know if you can in Spring 15? Or they can allow you to do that if you're doing a formula? That you could do the and/ors?
It's a really good question. I don't know that one.
Okay.
If it's an or, you just put, after false, you do another criteria, right? You do your next.
Yeah, but I like to do it,
Yeah,
right?
all
Because you're
one.
doing the one
It's-
same action.
and the same
I was just
action.
curious, because I know in beta you can't,
Mhm.
but I was wondering if in the spring they added that functionality.
I would think if it's not available for spring, it will definitely be coming very soon after that. Just because it wouldn't make sense to build all that out and then put that functionality in later and have to go back and fix it all.
Right, right.
Okay, very good question. See, we're learning here. All good stuff. All right, so we have our criteria based on our node to be set up. If we wanted to set up other criteria, we could do that in the interest of time and some of the other things in the presentation though today. We are not going to do that. So let's go ahead. We have our notification here. We know it's going to send it to Kathy, but it's going to mention to Celia. Let's go ahead and activate this to make sure that it works. Just like with a workflow, if you build out the workflow and everything's good to go, and then you go and you see it's not firing and not doing anything, probably go back and check your workflow and make sure you hit that little activate button or deactivate button. Can't tell you how many times I've racked my brain trying to figure something out, and it was that little button not being activated. That's the thing you need to do. So now this is activated, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our opportunities, and we're going to see what happens when we kind of get this set up. So here's an opportunity we have with tchotchkes. If you're a first timer here to the group, our group really enjoys the movie Office Space. So we use tchotchkes as one of our accounts here inside of the system. So you notice though that tchotchkes has an amount that's like wicked expensive. I don't think tchotchkes could necessarily afford that. So we're going to knock that down to 0 until we can figure out what tchotchkes is going to do going forward. But we're going to go ahead and take this out of close 1. We're going to move this back to negotiation. And we're going to go ahead and hit save. Now, if everything worked correctly in our process builder based on this process, we should be able to go in and hopefully see Kathy's record with the notification on here, right? Fingers crossed, we'll see that kind of going forward.
The dollar amount is 0.
Yeah, you
That's
said
what it
not
said.
equals 0.
Oh, okay. So let's say 1, right? That should work then? Okay.
That's what you had, not equals 0.
Okay, so let's go in, check on Kathy's chatter feed. Oh no, fired when it was at 0, right?
Right.
So there you go. So it went to Kathy and her feed. Celia also gets notified. The opportunity is trying to get by with no amount. So it did work. I did do it right. Nice. Celia's got to do something, and then it sees Kathy actually went and changed the amount to $1. So we're not going to not close the deal. We're just going to only get $1 for it going forward.
So what's the order? Because I think his logic is wrong. What's the order of firing? You developer people. Me, developer. I'm a developer.
It worked fine. It did what he said.
No, I think his logic, wasn't his logic?
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was 0.
I thought it said not
Well, you're not
equals
gonna
0.
get the mark.
I love the discussion. This is so great.
I'll have to do something wrong in my portion too.
It's definitely an ego builder with a group of people trying to figure out how you did something wrong. So I really appreciate it.
It is, I know.
Okay, built out to, well, it's got to be one of our active ones. I think it's this one. Yes, it's this one. So tell me, Kathy, what did I do wrong?
No,
Criteria.
Criteria, the node, okay,
Oh, yeah.
does not equal 0.
okay.
Right.
So if it doesn't equal 0, if it equals 1, then it's gonna fire, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's
So we
fine.
fired before it, before it saves the record.
Zero.
Part of the second one.
Yes,
The message did
But the message.
yes.
led you to believe it was working on the
Gotcha. Thank you, room full of people, for proving me wrong.
The record is updated and the auto shout.
So after Kathy corrected me and showed how everything actually worked correctly, it's nice to see that the process was right, but the person behind the process wasn't.
You're just trying to be helpful.
So with that and being shamefaced now,
Yeah, I have another question.
yes, go ahead. Anything to direct attention from me.
I know it's gonna go right.
Oh, thank you.
It's a question for you, but not based on that.
Sure.
So you created that process and you activated it. And maybe I could just look it up to see Spring 15. If you need to change that, you cannot deactivate and then add changes, which is a pain in the behind, because I've had like 10 versions. And then you can't delete the obsolete ones till 12 hours later.
Well, I did hear that that's changing in spring.
Spring 15 is better UI.
Yes, I believe you can update that. In my shamefaced glory, I went and exited out of Salesforce. So.
You can deactivate.
I believe, though, that we can deactivate the process.
You can always
And,
deactivate, but you
Right.
can't delete it.
You can't delete it.
Deactivated version.
So you have to deactivate.
Aha.
So just for people that are doing this, you have to deactivate, save as, but I think in Spring I saw it now has a clone. You would do a save as, give it another name, and then you can edit it until it becomes active. But that one that you deactivated, because I like things clean, you cannot delete it until 12 hours after you made it deactivated. I think, probably.
One thing that I used as a workflow kind of around that, I know it's a lot more jumbled, but you can actually save some of your processes as a draft and then activate another one. So you can essentially create 2 copies of it. Save one as a draft, activate the one you're using, but then you always have your draft to build off of, so you can build more stuff in there.
I like
Redeemed
that.
myself. Yes, I got it. Thank you.
That is an awesome suggestion.
So that is something you can do as a temporary fix until, again, they fix the UI kind of going forward in the system.
Yeah.
Tom, what did I do wrong? Oh, okay.
So on this topic, I haven't looked at this either, I honestly don't know the answer to this question. What's its status in terms of, being able to develop in a sandbox and then deploy using change sets?
You can't.
You can.
Can you change sets?
Flow.
Yeah.
So,
So,
right, the object name is funny. I remember
yeah,
saying-
so you won't find it as a process, but you will find it under flow.
You're
Believe
kidding
me
me.
when I tell you that I swore that you couldn't deploy until I finally got frustrated and actually posted the question to the success meeting. I'm like, yeah, just pick it up under flows.
Man, I've been recreating.
That has to be on Twitter under like Salesforce problems hashtag or something.
Yeah.
It was just bang your head against the desk.
All right, thank you, Sandy, there was a reason I came to
Does
this.
it have to be, does it deploy as deactivated, you have to activate it in production? I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
But you do have to have process builder enabled in your production order.
Right, so not many people are doing that yet.
Yeah.
This will definitely become more of a hot button issue as Process Builder is GA and it goes into production and people start messing around with it and seeing what happens. So again, this is just kind of a taste of it to get you familiar with it. But in the interest of time though, we're gonna keep moving on. So got to see a little demo of how that works, albeit I did it wrong, but then redeemed myself. I'm just gonna point that part out. What we're gonna go on to next is creating records with the Process Builder. And I believe I am turning this over to Kirk. There you go.
Awesome. Real quick before I get started, has the sign-up sheet or sign-in sheet made its way around? If not, just pass it on to the next person.
Have you given anybody not signed it yet?
Awesome, thank you.
Anybody who needs to sign it?
If you haven't signed it, or, cool. All right, so Christian showed you some of the actions that you can do within the process builder, and you can kind of see how it's a great extension off of what we know traditionally as the workflow rules. Workflow rules, you only had a handful of different actions that you could do, some notifications, tasks, field updates, but you couldn't do things like chatter notifications. Once day one of chatter, what was the first thing you want to do? Build some workflow to actually post to chatter. That would have been great. Now we can do that with process builder. The other nice thing you can do now is actually create some records. So the next two portions of the session tonight is actually, let's look at an Apex trigger that formerly you would have had to create in Apex. And we'll run through some quick lines of code, very simple. This is the part where I put everyone to sleep for just a couple minutes, and then Kathy will wake everyone up. So creating records, we can go through the actions. Previously, you could do them manually through a batch job, maybe some sort of scheduled task. Workflow action, technically you couldn't if you create a task. You were technically behind the scenes creating a record, a task record. See Apex magic. By that I mean you could do a field update that might trigger an Apex trigger. So you could technically venture into the world of Apex through updating some of their field. Flow, recently you could actually build a flow on that did create records. And Apex magic, again, either triggers or custom buttons on a record that go to a Visualforce page and does all sorts of fancy magic for you. And now most recently the process builder. All right, so first thing I want to do is jump into that org again, and let's take a look at a very quick Apex trigger. So the very few amount of you that were at our all things automation over at Intelligent Office, you'll recognize some of this code. It's very simple, very simplistic. The use case isn't exactly the best. And I'm going to work in memento style. We're going to work at the end result and go from the end to the beginning. So we'll go to an account. The purpose behind this, the use case isn't that great. You'll probably never do this in production. You'll never want to create the same records over and over and over again. So our use case is basically anytime you're creating an account and you check a box, it's going to create 3 contact records for you. Very simple concept. The code will be very simple to understand. And the code is actually posted up on the meetup group, so you can look at it later. Maybe it's some fodder for later, how can I do this, or how do I venture into the Apex role and start developing some sort of scripts. So let's see it in action. If we do a new account, you can see that we have these 2 checkboxes: create contacts through an Apex trigger and create contacts through a process builder. So as soon as we give it a name, I'm not as fun as Christian, so let's do test account ABC and create contacts with Apex trigger. So my trigger behind the scenes, when I hit save, it'll run through a loop, create 3 contacts, meaning I think test contact 01, 02, and 03. And that's it. There's really nothing to that. So we'll hit save. If we jump down to the related list, you can see contacts, and just like that, we've created 3 contacts. Very simple, very straightforward. A bajillion other use cases that you could do as well. Maybe an opportunity stage is one, and you want to create some related records, maybe some custom objects. You need records for anytime your opportunity is one, or maybe a self-review, an org review of why did this opportunity not go through. And there's a bajillion use cases out there. So let's look at the code real quick so we can see what Kathy's actually going to reproduce as a process. Go to the console. So if you're not familiar with the developer console, it's just a utility that we can use to run some scripts. We can look at the Apex classes and triggers and all the coding stuff behind the scenes. When you do file open, you can see the different component types on the left-hand side, anything from classes and triggers to packages and static resources. We want to look at triggers. We've got one called accounts. So if we say no thanks to the tour, minimize this, and we can start to take a look at this. So this is a basic format that we have on all the triggers. This after insert is very similar to what we saw in the process builder. Hey, when do you want this to actually run? Do you want it to run on creation, updation? That's one way of defining it. So this trigger is only going to happen when we insert a record, when we hit that save button initially. If we go back to the record, make a change and hit save, we're technically updating the record in that case. This won't run. So the first thing we want to do, in Salesforce, there's a concept of bulkification. And the best practice is don't do things repeatedly. Don't tie up the system resources. It's the multi-tenant architecture. You're not the only Salesforce org running on this server, so you can't hog up all the resources. So one of the best things that you can do is actually bulkify your code. So instead of individually inserting or creating those contacts, do them all at one time. And the way you do that is basically create something called a list. You can refer to it as a bucket. You're putting everything into this bucket, and at the end of your code, you're going to submit them to Salesforce all at the same time. So you're inserting everything. And from the admin side, you can think of it as like a bulk insert. If you've got a CSV and you're using data loader to create a lot of records, inserting a list is like uploading a CSV of new records that you want to create. So we're creating a new bucket. We're going to call it new contacts. Now, new contacts, the only thing that can go in that bucket are contact records. What we want to do is, so for this loop, we have something called trigger new. Trigger new, think of that as a way to encapsulate all the records that you're inserting. We're dealing with one account record. We create a new account record, we click save. So that's a triggered account. If we did a bulk update and we inserted 10 account records, we're technically triggering 10 accounts. So for every record that we're inserting, we want to loop through each one individually. So as we loop through those individually, we call each one A. We'll just give it a variable name, call it A, just something to refer to it. And A, we have access through A to all the fields, whether they're standard fields, system fields, or the custom fields on your object. We can go and check the values of those fields. That checkbox that you saw me check actually has a developer name called create contacts apex trigger _C. So side note, anytime you're looking at someone's code and maybe you keep saying this _C stuff, that's just an indicator that it's a custom field. So what we're saying here is as we're looking through all those accounts one at a time, we're calling it A. And for the account that we're currently looking at, if it's checked, let's move on to the next step. So there's our criteria. We said, if this is checked, we want to do something. What we want to do is actually create 3 contacts. And the way we can quickly do that within Apex or any other programming language is do the bulk of our work in a loop. So all this is saying is, as long as our current index, our current count is less than 3, keep going, do it again, do it again. So everything within this curly, this start curly, and the end curly will actually run through. We'll run through, it'll be the first time, the second time, the third time. This will no longer be true, and then we'll go to the very end. So what are we doing inside each one of those loops? We're technically saying, okay, that bucket that we have up here, the bucket of only contacts, the new contacts that we're going to put in there, we're going to create a new contact and put it in that bucket. So here you can see we're creating a new contact, and we're populating a few fields. First name, last name, and we're giving it the account ID of the triggering account. So again, remember, we're looping through all the accounts, and we're only looking at the accounts one at a time. By the time we get down here, we have the current account record, and we can populate its account ID. So we're creating the new account, and we're putting that new account in the bucket all at the same time. Make sense so far? So what we want to do, as long as nothing happened, we get to this point and we have contacts in the bucket. The last thing that we have to do is actually save those records to Salesforce. The equivalent of clicking on the save button in Apex is a command called insert. So all this is saying is, as long as that bucket called new contacts isn't empty, that's what this exclamation is. Another way of saying it would be new contacts not is empty, or size not 0. We'll do this. So as long as the bucket has something in it, insert those contacts, and we're good to go. So that's all there is behind the scenes. Any questions on that real quick? Fairly straightforward. Okay. I see a lot of eyes on a lot of eyelids. That's good. So that's our trigger. If we go back to the record again, we can kind of check out the contacts again. And you can see that I just did first name, last name, and the account ID. So there's our first name, last name with the loop that we went through. So 0, 1, 2, it's 3 altogether, and the account ID gets piled. So this is one example of creating records through Apex that you can now do within the process builder. You couldn't do that before with workflow rules, so you're kind of left with either the more recent flow or having a developer go through and create these records for you. Aside from creating records, so you might be creating those the custom object records for some other side process that needs to be kicked off at a certain stage or under certain criteria. Another common thing that you can do with Process Builder now is kind of build a flow rollup or even update all your child records. So say you have an opportunity, or let's go with account. We'll do the inverse of this. So if we make a change on the account and you want to update a certain field on all the contacts, you can now update all the children through the flow too. But what Kathy's going to do next is actually demonstrate recreating this as a process. So jump back to the slide deck real quick. I think that's all I had.
All right. So
So now it's Christian's turn to get back at me. I better watch myself, make sure I cross all my T's and dot all my I's here. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and go right back here, right? Okay, so I'm gonna try and do this quickly. You've just watched Christian build a process. And I'll show you going straight through here, same way we get to workflow. We go through the create, workflow and approvals, and processes are right underneath that. We'll start with the new process, although I have built a few of these already to test them out and deleted. So you would see all my mess ups, what we got here. I'll call this create 3 contacts. One of the things I find super fun about playing around in the sandbox is coming up with crazy names for things. So for this particular activity, I went online and researched companies used in movies. And so I'll ask you guys to think about that so we can use some appropriate account. We'll take a little vote on which account we should create. The one I came up with was Brondo. You know what movie that's from? Brondo. Idiocracy.
Ah.
Yeah, so I thought that was a good one, but kind of goes right up there with Office Space. So obviously we're going to, the object we're going to use, or we're going to trigger this on is account. And I start to create there. We want to start the process when a record is created. We could edit it, but I'm just going to do that. Create it. Add a criteria. My criteria name is the checkbox is checked. Checkbox is checked. So you remember what checkbox we're looking for when we trigger based on the business criteria. So when the filter conditions are met, formula evaluates to true. That's good. Filter conditions are met, meets all criteria. We want to just look at that one field. So now what did you name? Here we are, the process builder. That's the one we're looking for. Now I finally figured out what you emailed me about today. Because, you know, he came up with this clever way to fix that. Okay. Equals true. Everyone following me so far? Very easy. And that's really the only criteria we're looking for. We're creating an account. If the checkbox equals true, then we're good to go. Okay, so checkbox is checked. True, add an action. Now here's where I ran into a little funny stuff when I was looking at the actions, because like you were asking before, can you kind of go through, what was the issue? We need to create three contacts here. How can, you know, when we did the apex, we're just looking at the loop one time. Well, we actually have to create 3 separate actions. So we're going to create a record one time. And action name is create contact 1. The object contact. Again, it's pretty easily laid out. Makes me think of other things that I see in Salesforce. Now the last name here, I'm actually going to use for the last name, I'm going to use the name of the account. That's a little bit different than what Kirk did. So I could do the same thing. I could just type in contact or name or whatever, but I'm going to be tricky. Partly because when I did this, I was thinking about how I can name an object using fields that I filled out. So if I was going to create an opportunity and I wanted to start it with the name of the account and then the product or something like that, that's kind of what I was thinking when I did this. So now I'll name the first name. Here we are. Wait, that's not right. Right, shouldn't there be no space? Oh, there we go. Okay. And then for the first name, I actually just went with 1 because I need to do this 3 times and I need to keep them separate. So that was just how I came up with it. So we've got first name, and then we need to add the account that we want to create it in. So here's my account ID equals, and I'm going to find the account. Is that right? Am I doing
Just
that
say
right?
the contact list be floating out there unattached type of thing.
What's that?
We think that since it's triggered on account, that it would automatically one at a time.
You know, I tried that, but it didn't work.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I did try that first because I thought that would be pretty obvious, but no. Why is that? Yes,
Can you concatenate 2 names? Like if you want first name plus last name?
I thought of that too, but I don't think so. Does anyone know anything different?
Probably need to evaluate against the formula.
Against the
instead of
formula.
Instead of against criteria.
That makes sense. So I was wondering that and thinking about that and thinking that I couldn't do it, but thank you. I learned something. All right, so we'll say save. And then I'm going to very quickly go through the same thing again. Create a record. Create.
You can't clone an action though, right?
Right.
Okay. I know.
It has to change, right? It has to,
Yeah.
something's got to go. Oops. Account name. First name. And we're going to say 2. And then account.
Kathy, just a general knowledge question.
Yep.
If you have required fields on your contact, would you also need to put them in when you're
Yes,
building this
we
out?
would.
Okay.
So, again, I like just going through this, I was thinking a lot about my own use case for where I would actually do this. And sometimes you're just going, oh. Okay.
It doesn't really, like in the UI, it doesn't show you which fields are your.
No, it just would fail to save, right? So you do, again, try to do this quickly.
And if you've ever dug around in the flow of the visual flow builder, you can kind of achieve the same exact thing, a little closer to the trigger as well. You have a lot more, you mentioned it earlier, it's a little more developer friendly. You have a lot of concepts that are very similar, including variables and parameters. So you are able to actually create a system that says, okay, when this does happen, do this, actually loop it a certain amount of times. So you're doing everything all at once. It's along the same lines, but a little more complex to actually get to that end result.
But developers still could be rested assured that their need is there because it's not bulkified. So
Yeah, that's
you
the
know,
one thing.
you will run into limits. I know our chief architect, we were doing something and we were playing with process and he hit so cool limits because doing one lookup and then he had another lookup.
Exactly.
And
You're
then
able
it
to
was
spawn off individual
off the
contexts.
XIC line.
Yeah, so you have a lot of those limits that even if you're bulkified, it's getting it individual.
But I mean, it's already out there and I mean, people are trying to get traction for it to get bulkified. We'll see what happens.
Kurt, did you deselect the box? Did your code deselect the box?
I did not put that in.
Okay,
You
then
got me.
I will neglect that.
What Kathy's referring to is after you check it when the contacts are created, do you want to check the box afterwards?
So I could add another action here that says, update the field, now that equals false rather than true, but I'm not gonna do that. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and activate this. Have I missed anything?
I think
Now's
you're
your
pretty good
chance.
to go.
Now's your
Kathy.
chance to go.
I just wanted to point out, does anybody notice the difference between what I was doing in the process builder versus what Kathy's doing when it comes to the actions? I only was looking at the immediate actions, but there's actually
she has
scheduled
scheduled
actions that are available because of things that she's doing in here. So depending on what types of criteria you're using, what type of object, you might not have the ability to look at scheduled actions going forward from there.
And Christian, I think you and I talked about earlier, where if you have something that's scheduled, you've triggered something that's now scheduled for a week later, or whatever the actual scheduled activity is. If you go in and actually break the criteria, say when that checkbox is checked, send an email 7 days later. If someone goes in and unchecks that box, does that my scheduled activity actually happen? It was scheduled. Should it?
In workflow, it doesn't.
In workflow, it doesn't. So
Yeah. Workflow, it doesn't.
I
It
think the
won't
same is
run.
true for the.
I would
My
think
thought,
it
yeah,
would
my
be.
thought would be it would be the same as workflow going forward, but we'll see.
No, I would venture to say it's the same.
Yeah.
So are we gonna go with Brondo, or have you guys come up with a better idea? You know who I was looking for is the name of Miracle Max's company. You guys know Miracle Max
From the
The
Princess
Princess
Bride.
Bride?
Wow.
Billy Crystal? Okay.
Company.
So shall we use Brondo?
Rondo.
Brondo.
Who's seen that movie? I've got a trivia question for this
Oh my
flag later.
gosh.
All right. So we've got some t-shirts to get rid of, so. I think everyone in here has already had at least one shirt.
Oh, we also have to
We
announce
also
the contest
have
at the end.
awesome admin capes.
Oh, yeah, that's what I forgot.
That sounds awesome.
So if you weren't at Dreamforce, this year was the first year they had an admin keynote, and they gave away awesome admin capes.
And on Halloween, Trigger was abuzz with people dressed up in their admin capes. So I selected the process builder box, and now I'm gonna save, and hopefully we'll see 3 new contacts. There they are.
Boom.
3 Brondo, 2 Brondo, and 1 Brondo. There they are, right there.
Yay.
Can I ask, so this is another quick, I'm gonna have tons of questions, because I've been playing around with this. Will those actions fire in order? Or is it like workflow and you don't know which thing is firing first?
I don't know the answer
Okay,
to that.
I just,
Just out of curiosity, can you tell me the use case that would,
With care.
That you
well,
would-
I hate to say it that way, but yeah, that would really make a difference.
I don't know, but I could probably come up with something
Okay.
if I thought about it long enough.
That'd be great. Yeah, Ryan.
I see this as a useful way to create maybe a template of tasks that a certain opportunity type is created. Can you create those tasks with specific dates? So you say this task needs to be created at the beginning of the project. This task should take place somewhere after the first week of the project, and so on throughout the list of tasks.
That's one of the things I was thinking about in terms of like when you, like, let's say you set the date, you want the date to equal, it would be nice to be able to have that field be a formula field. So today plus 7 days or whatever. I don't know if that's possible I don't think that's possible right now. Unless you have a timed action, that would be 7 days after the close date or whatever it is, then.
Formulas on your, so you make formulas to say, create task 1 with this date, so task 1 due date, and that would be, whatever, date field plus 7, and then task 2 due date would be, date field plus 14. So if you knew ahead of time you had to create 7 tasks every time you create a new account, and they're always gonna be spaced out by X number of days. It's a little extra work, but you can make formulas on the account object for all those different dates and then leave
Oh,
these
I see.
actions to
Oh,
do it.
right.
But certainly would be a whole lot easier if you could just say.
That's what I'm thinking,
this date plus 7,
it has to be there, the capability has to be there.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the first time they're going to be launching it generally available, so I'm sure improvements will come over time, just like with everything else that they have going forward.
I just think it's really awesome. I cannot write a trigger. Well, I've written a trigger, but it's not a regular occurrence for me to even have to do it or have the need to do it. But this gives me an incredible, it is so much more than I was able to do beforehand. So it's super exciting. Anybody else have questions that I can't answer? Or have to say no?
Does it give any exceptions, like couple errors or something, it reads a fail.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, like, yeah, no, apparently if you run into an error, it just says error and you have no idea. Yeah.
It's very discreet. It tells me nothing.
Yeah, it does.
I'm assuming somewhere in the debug log or the process queue, you can go somewhere.
You'll just notice.
It just pops up an error on the screen. If you run it.
Going back to that issue, we were having to call goodbye and our every 40 on the front of the it was okay. So there's
So now that we've done a demo for you of the process builder, we'd like to announce the first 2015 Clicks to Code series Salesforce Challenge for anybody who's here tonight. We're looking at the process builder as something that's new and going to be available for everybody in February. What we'd like to see is what general use process would make the most sense that somebody could use in any org going forward. So we're challenging everybody here tonight to come up with a process, whatever you think it could be on any sort of standard object or anything that's already in Salesforce that you might think is a good process that you want to build. Send a screenshot of that as well as a description in the notes after this meeting. The winner is going to get a gift card for Wegmans, which is like 5 seconds down the road if you haven't been there. But it's definitely a way to kind of see what's out there, and then you might solve a business issue for somebody or give somebody that spark to kind of do something from there. So again, just post your idea in the process builder. If you already have it in your org, great. If you get it in your org after the release, play around with it in your sandbox, come up with something, or your developer org, play around with it, and let us know what you think. And we'll have a kind of a recap of some of the best processes that can be used in any sort of org going forward in our next Clicks to Code series.
Maybe everyone should vote for the winner on Meetup.
We'll get to that once we get to submissions. I think the last contest we tried, we had one submission, so they won by default. So if we get more than one, we're already 50% above goals. That's a good thing to start.
Wait, another question over here.
So if you use like scheduled actions, is there a place like to check who's queued up for this? Like in the time-based workflow section in setup, like is there setup
It's
where?
in a different spot.
Where is it?
Like, you go to set up and look for it, it's in a different spot. It's not time-based workflow, but it's something else. I
Do
did
you know
see
what
it.
it's
I just don't
called?
know what it's called. Under setup, something.
There we are.
Someone, anyone see it?
I would think that you would have to be able to see it.
Please spell Q.
Look for process. And so go to process builder.
Automated process action?
Yeah,
Bingo.
automated process actions.
Very intuitive.
Very
Two
good.
tonight.
Wow.
You know, I saw it somewhere, I just didn't know where.
Where did I?
Way down.
Under monitor, automated process action.
There it is.
Okay.
Looks just like time-based,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
What are they?
Great question.
All right, so I think it's trivia time. Let's get the good one out of the way. What do plants need?
Electrolytes.
Why do they need it?
What plants?
Well, that's great.
All right, so we've got some XLs, a couple mediums. Feel free to grab one on your way. All right, and that goes for everyone. So, spoiler. What sort of actions can you do now that you couldn't do in workflow? Name two.
For those who want capes.
Or the capes.
Ooh, capes are lucrative.
Create a record of the views.
That works. Who else? You win too.
Oh, run a trigger.
Okay.
Launch a flow.
Launch a flow.
All right. What else do we have? Clear out the crowd. Questions? Who wants a t-shirt?
I actually have a quick question, just by show of hands. How many people here are developers? Okay, how many people here are admins? Okay, how many people here are consultants? Okay, how many people here are recruiters? Okay, how many people are here for the free food? There we go. For the, I guess the consultants and the recruiters in the room, did this kind of make sense to you as far as some of the back end language of Salesforce? Do you think you would probably have a better understanding of how to talk about this with maybe some of your orgs who are using it or looking to use it going forward? Or some of your people you're looking to screen?
Yeah.
Lots of head bob. Okay, that works. Cool. Was this presentation useful? If not, just tell us after and we'll all leave. But if it was, show of hands right now. Yay, thank you very much. Well, I think that's it. So no networking.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned about the error. If you have an error in your script, does it tell you when you build it, or does it not tell you try to run it?
Until you run it.
So like if you try to create a contact at a required field and you didn't list it, you won't know that it's required until it's too late.
So if you built that whole process and you didn't build the draft on top of it and you activated it and there was an error, you have to rebuild that whole process again.
No, you say that.
So you say that if you didn't say it. Right, but if they didn't do that in the beginning, that's where the error is. If they just activate it without doing say that, that's why I said you create the draft.
I think you take a deactivated process and say that.
Okay, I didn't play around with that.
Okay.
Next coworker. Gotcha. So you don't have the $6 million man.
The other thing is, they still have
Updated, so we don't have to. But yes, I agree, the versioning is kind of crazy. I think that went well. Other than my screw up. Other than my screw up, you know, I think. I'm sorry, it takes a lot to embarrass me.
Okay.
Where's our admin? We need admins to get their capes. Their capes to the next meeting. You want a cape? Give her a cape.
Yeah.
I think that's the last cape.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome too. Well, it's the last cape here tonight. Yes.